Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Live, the debut edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Live. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside David, the Octavius, the Tiberius, the alleged backyard, one-time knockout, can't put his phone audio off when we're live on air, hero.
It's my fault.
It's never your fault. How the heck are you here on Wednesday, March 18th?
I'm fantastic. It's the day after St. Patrick's Day, and there's so much shenanigans going on around here, especially in the world of wrestling.
Yes, indeed, and we want to thank you for joining us wherever you are all over the world. We are streaming right now on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, Twitch, and also, of course, our broadcast partner, Fight TV.
I love Fight TV. F-I-T-E, Fight.
Well, folks, we are live here from the PWR studio, but we also have other people joining us. It's a loaded show here tonight. We'll tell you why in a minute. But let's first show you who else is joining us in their debut, if you will, here, David Hero. Your gimmick fell out of your ear.
Oh, my goodness.
You're just falling apart. You're a mess. No better time than to introduce everybody.
You know what, though? That's what happens when you buy these microphones from China.
Yeah, exactly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man they call Meathead, who is joining us live, along with Drew Bay, who's also joining us live from the East Coast.
How's it going?
And also there is one Josh Chernoff. Welcome to the show, Josh. Josh, of course, also says Chernoff on Fight TV. So much to talk about. We're going to hear from all of our correspondents later on in the broadcast. In just a few minutes, Al Snow of OVW Wrestling will be joining us here live. That's going to be quarter after the hour, 7:15 Eastern. Al Snow will join us live. We want you to join us, interact with us live as well, ladies and gentlemen. Comment on wherever social network you are using, and it will pop up right here on this computer, and we can put and share your comments on air. It's your favorite part of the show, David.
I love fan interaction.
Yes, indeed. So keep those comments coming. And one new thing, actually, that we learned on Monday after going live is we are going to select our top commenter from each of our social media channels, and on our next show, which in this case will be Friday night, we will share the winner, if you will, the one who engaged the most with us.
I think that's what do they win?
Well, they get mentioned on air.
So we're not giving away Linda Kay's phone number anymore?
Why do you look so stiff? And what is this seat reserved for?
For me, because I'm a Hall of Famer.
In what world? Oh, that trophy you got from Tony Scarpone. Sure.
No. It was from Jimmy Blaze, POW Wrestling.
Oh. Well, you might be a Hall of Famer, but David Hero, it's a very special night here. Not only are we making our debut on Fight TV all over the world, live here on Primetime, we've got hot news, we've got the top story, we've got the preview of tonight's AEW Dynamite, and the lounge, which is going to be exclusively dedicated to all of our fans out there and their comments.
So that's where everyone gets to hang out and commiserate?
It's the PWR lounge.
Sweet.
Like the VIP lounge?
Yeah, I get it.
But you know, before we get to all of that, and Al Snow joining us in just a moment, David Hero, it's a special day. March 18, 2020.
It is, isn't it?
22 years ago today.
Oh!
22 years ago today.
That's right. You know, on that gimmick on Facebook where it shows memories and everything?
Yes.
Well, this wasn't one of my memories, but I found the video, so hold on a second.
You found the video?
Hey, roll it.
What?
Welcome everyone to the Pro Wrestling Report.
Oh, wait a minute.
Edition of the Pro Wrestling Report. We're live.
That's our logo, of course, but I hear the voices. Is this episode 1?
Oh
my Lord.
As he likes to be called today, we're going to be bringing you
Where'd you get this?
Wait, which one is you?
Of the Pro
What do you mean, which one is me?
Weekly
one with hair.
Information show right
how
here
old were
on
you
Mania.
in that? Like,
and,
I was younger. I don't know how old. Well, that's awesome. You got a clip from...
We're not going to sit here and claim to be insiders. We're not going to sit here and claim to
our first show.
All
is
the insight going on with what's going on in wrestling. We are wrestling fans. We're going to bring you news from a wrestling fan's perspective.
Wow.
So, listen to that. Did you hear that part? Because it remains true. We said that we deliver news as fans, from a fan's point of view. 22 years ago, we started this journey.
I think I was 16 when that aired.
And now, we are here, live.
Amazing.
All over the world.
It's just amazing.
Is it? How amazing is it?
Well, you're that old. And you look great.
I look fantastic,
Yes,
if I
you
might
do.
say so myself. Yes, I do. Well, without further ado, thank you for joining us along on the journey, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being with us here live tonight. The social comments are flying in, and we really appreciate it. So we name a few quick names: Heather Randy Fry, The Variety Vendor, Rostafa, Arvin Yoga, and Oggs, who is asking if we're in a garage. We're not in a garage.
We're in the Fortress of Solitude.
So
where else would you rather be with everything that's going on in the world today?
Yes. So let's get to our first part of the show here, David Hero.
Yeah.
And it's time for this week's top story. And the saga continues from WrestleMania 36. We talked to you on Monday about the fact that the show had been canceled in Tampa and moved to Orlando to the WWE Performance Center. Well, more discussion, David Hero, has come out from that, and what the long-term WrestleMania plans may actually be. And before we get to our associates to give us their perspectives, let's first talk about what we know or what we've heard. And what we've heard is that WrestleMania is going to be at the PC in front of nobody, basically, which is going to be
absolutely nobody.
It's going to be painful, but they don't have much of a choice. In fact, one of the representatives from the government in Tampa had the following to say, and I quote, "Our community has waited 36 years to host WrestleMania, and while we are saddened that this unforeseen situation has led us to today's announcement, this is totally the right call for the security and safety of everyone involved. A huge thank you to all of our local leaders and friends at WWE as we collectively work through this the unprecedented fluidity of the last few weeks. The Tampa Bay WWE partnership has never been stronger."
Well, that means they'll be there in 3 years from now. Because next year it's going to be in Los Angeles, then after that it's in Lost Wages. That means it'll be in Tampa.
Possibly, but what about this year? Is it really going to happen on April 5th? Will WrestleMania really emanate in front of as you said last time we were live, a warehouse setting in the Performance Center on April 5th? Is that really going to happen?
I mean, you would like to believe so, but there's so many questions regarding it. Because now everyone's saying, what's that new trendy word they're saying? Social distancing?
Social distancing, yes.
What, 10 people in a building at one time?
Depends on what day it is. It probably changed since we got on the air live.
Just imagine, that's a good 6-man tag. By the time you have the talent in the ring, the referee, the bell keeper, the ring announcer, you're almost maxed out.
Here are the rumors that are out there, and what we have heard from some credible sources, actually, is that Orlando may not even be able to host WrestleMania at the Performance Center. Because things are changing so rapidly and this thing keeps getting pushed out further and further. If not the Performance Center, what do you do? Can you delay WrestleMania? We saw what they did on SmackDown last Friday night. Had 3 matches live in the Performance Center. This past Monday night, they had 1 match. Because it is clearly an awkward presentation having those wrestling matches in that Performance Center.
And also at the same time, when it's an empty arena, an empty building, it reminds the fans of all the chaos that's out there right now. So if you just show a taped match with a full crowd and you get Brock Lesnar over to the casual fan that hasn't seen him because he's only on for maybe 3.5 minutes on a Monday night, and then you give him a good full dose of Lesnar and you set up the Drew McIntyre angle, now it works. But you may have to put everything on pause because you can't keep going back to the PC in an empty building. No. And if you notice who they've used in the PC, with the exception of the girls on SmackDown to open the show, it's been Edge, it's been John Cena, it's been Undertaker, it's been Triple H, the guys that get the majority of the TV talking time because they are the ones they're most comfortable with to work in front of 0 people.
But still just awkward. And I'm not knocking it. As I said on Monday's show, we can't knock what WWE is doing. We can't knock what AEW is going to do tonight. But it's just awkward.
Well, yeah, because you're taught forever to work the crowd.
Yes.
So when there's no crowd, who are you working?
Well, end up shooting themselves into a work, huh? That's a wrestling term, right?
Yeah, stop doing that.
Dang it, I tried so hard. There's also discussion out there that maybe if WrestleMania is delayed, then perhaps it occurs later in the year.
Yeah, and that could very well happen, but that's going to cost so much money.
Everything now is costing so much money
Billions.
that they're doing. How
Billions
so?
of dollars. Just to move everything.
What do you mean move everything? Nothing's there
They
yet.
They built a set for Tampa.
For an outdoor stadium, yes.
And now they have to build a new set for where they're going to go for the next one.
They do.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap, but what's the cost-benefit analysis? If you do it in the empty PC, or if you do it in a stadium or arena somewhere else later in the year, which is better for you as WWE? If finances were not
what do you consider to be later in the year?
June, July. You got the little bit of a drought between WrestleMania and SummerSlam.
Yeah, not much.
This may not pass by then. It should, but...
But keep in mind, I'm sure they got to squeeze a Saudi show in there also.
I think the Saudi schedule is a bit fluid. I think they have a number of shows they have to commit to them, but I don't know if they're locked in any dates. In fact, the last show they did was moved a couple of times, I believe.
I don't remember.
Date-wise. That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Well, it did happen. I saw it. I saw Bray Wyatt lose
I'm talking
to Bill
about
Goldberg.
the dates being moved. Maybe you should pay some attention here to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm done with you. I want to hear from our new associates and hear their thoughts on this WrestleMania saga and what is going on. And also, folks, we want to hear from all of you, and your comment may make it on this very screen, and it may make it into the PWR Lounge later on in this episode. So first, let's go to the opinions of our associates. And you see what we did there? Why they're associates?
Oh, but I'm the opinionologist. I'm the opinionist.
I think you're the doctor of
Let them have hot
opinionology.
takes. They can have hot takes.
So, gentlemen, as we said,
Whoa.
WrestleMania, it is essentially canceled. It is potentially being moved to the Performance Center. Maybe it's going to happen somewhere else later down the road. What are your thoughts on how WWE should tackle this now? And then when and where should the show occur? And we'll start with you, Mr. Chernoff.
I think that moving it from the stadium was a no-brainer, had to happen, was going to happen no matter what. I am not a big fan of the idea of having it at the PC. I can't, I mentioned this on my show that's going to be airing right here on Fight in a couple of days. But remember there was the DVD a few years ago where they were showing you the Hogan versus Rock match. And they were talking about how this match wasn't really the greatest wrestling match, but at the same time it kind of was. And they showed the example they used in the DVD was they actually muted the crowd to show you that without that audience and without that energy, it really was just a couple of guys just walking around the ring. Then they turned that volume back up and they showed you how incredible it was. We are looking at that low volume but no visibility of crowd scenario at the PC. And I think that that's going to take away from every single match on the card. It's going to take away, let's say Drew McIntyre wins the title, right? So that's the worst celebration in the history of wrestling. Let's say he loses. Well, you're not going to have the crowd reacting one way or the other. To me, I don't think that it's a very good idea, and I think better to postpone that and drag it out. And I do think that they could drag it out the way they used to with storylines.
Meathead, your thoughts?
Do you think that...
I know it's difficult for you. I saw the struggle of trying to get to a point of thinking there.
He's used to Nitro.
Are we back in WCW again? Do you think that maybe is put on a different show and have WrestleMania move down the road? So they got to give us some sort of show, but maybe they take the WrestleMania. Because if you think about it, if you look at WrestleMania show, how much of that is entrance? How much of that is... Charlotte Flair coming off a helicopter? How much of that is built into the show? So WrestleMania, if they did the exact show that they have built in, WrestleMania is an hour less. It's an hour and a half. So do they use that when they're free to go into the buildings, into the stadiums, and have the crowds there? Do they use all the gimmicks that they were going to use at WrestleMania and move that off to the next show? Maybe they give Tampa Bay SummerSlam, or I don't know if SummerSlam's already committed. Maybe they move those dates around. Maybe they, bring something back to Tampa Bay this year. I know WrestleMania in 3 years is what Dave had said, but maybe they use all the pyros and all the, the show-stopping stuff. Maybe that's the show when they're able to go back outside.
several different options. Let's hear what Drew Bay has to say. Drew, your thoughts on what should happen in the near and far for WrestleMania?
Well, I think the Performance Center is a Band-Aid, and that's a thought, and it's also a hope. I think that they could easily move this to an arena in a couple of months, maybe a month or two, and a big one at that. I know the rumors floating out there about Madison Square Garden, and I think that's perfect for them if they choose to go that route. I think you saw a lot of things this week. Becky in a monster truck. I think that was set for her entrance at WrestleMania 36. I can't see them using that monster truck at the Performance Center, nor do I think that the whole culmination of these storylines should be blown off at WrestleMania. I know it's going to be a long, drawn-out build, but I just can't see the Performance Center doing any of these high-profile matches any justice. I really can't.
I would tend to agree. It is a very, very unique situation. There are so many options and answers, but there really are no answers right now due to the unique situation we are in globally and around the world. Thank you for that perspective, gentlemen. We'll get back to more of your thoughts later on, but we're going to take a timeout right now, and we're taking a timeout for one very important reason: to keep those social media comments coming in. Use the hashtag PWRLive. Hashtag PWRLive.
Is that the tic-tac-toe gimmick?
Yeah, it says it right above your head there. See, over there, PWRLive.
Oh, I'll be damned.
And we will see your comments that you're using on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, right here in the studio, and we'll be using those in the PWR Lounge later on. But coming up in just a moment, we will be joined by Al Snow of OVW. PWR Primetime Live returns in just under 1 minute on Fight TV.
The wait is over. The wait is over. All Elite Wrestling is now available on AEW Plus.
What are we seeing?
This is your chance to watch AEW Dynamite, commercial-free and live every Wednesday night.
Let's do this!
Exclusively on the Fight Digital Sports television platform. AEW Plus is available in over 100 countries.
Why'd you cancel the commercial? What happened?
It was. Did you hear that?
Did I hear what?
Why am I heard for doing good business?
Well, where'd you go? We're trying to get Al on here, and we are live, so we're getting that figured out. Let's go now to
you know what's
Al
going to
Snow.
happen? Cody's going to think I legit did that. I don't need that heat kind anymore.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, joining us, not Josh Chernoff, even though he is joining us, but please welcome the one, the only Al Snow. Al, thank you very much for joining us here on the inaugural edition of PWR Primetime Live from Louisville.
Hello and howdy do.
Howdy do.
Can you hear me?
You're speaking.
Yeah,
you're speaking
obviously
Kentucky.
heard it. I figured I'd since I'm in Louisville, I'd speak like a Louisvillian. So.
Yeah, I was going to say you should correct Damien. It's Louisville, not Louisville. Louisville.
Right. You got a Louisville. But it sounds like you got a bunch of marbles in your mouth.
Well, those are
marbles. You know what I mean, Damien? Marbles. Round objects.
Well, Al, thank you for joining us here on Fight TV. A lot going on in your world as it pertains to WrestleMania and the situation at hand. Tell us a bit about the last few days for you with OVW and the huge news of your network deal. But what has happened? How have you, as an owner, had to react to the coronavirus situation in wrestling?
Well, what we first had to do was, because Bellarmine University and several other academic institutions in the Louisville area had canceled classes, academic studies, the first thing we did was he canceled all academic studies with the ASWA, the academy, because we're a accredited trade school. So there was a precedent set by some of the other educational institutions in the area, and we had to follow suit. And then the very next day, the Kentucky Boxing and Wrestling Commission canceled all events up until April 5th, but I'm sure that'll probably be extended. And so our weekly live...
That's ironic.
Yeah. Our weekly live television show that we produce on Tuesdays, we had to cancel, which meant that we had to then start to create television content, because we still have to produce that for our local partner, and then we'll have to. It's a blessing in disguise, I think, because since we're going national on April 3rd, we have a large portion of the audience that's not going to be familiar with the product, familiar with the wrestlers, familiar with the storylines, the motivations, etc. And it'll be a good jumping off point for anybody that's part of that national audience. So we'll put together a compilation show, a kind of a welcome to OVW, and then, start to go from there. And then we'll just take it at a time. I mean, it's the one lesson I have learned in 38 years of being in professional wrestling is that the most preeminent lesson, which is you always take shit and you make shoe polish. And, we'll figure it out and we'll just keep going forward.
Well, Al, definitely a lot to consider, a lot of just moving parts.
All at once with everything messed in with it.
Absolutely, and obviously a lot of good stuff happening in OVW and in wrestling in general. But right now, there's all this discussion about doing matches in front of, nobody. Explain to the audience a little bit, explain to the viewers, explain to us how difficult that is as a wrestler to wrestle in front of a crowd of zero.
Well, and this might not be a popular opinion, but today's wrestlers, it's not that hard for them, because if you watched and you paid attention, they wrestle no different when there's nobody in the building as they do when there's 20,000 people in the building. They don't interact, they don't react. They'll claim that they do, but watching SmackDown or Raw, the evidence was clear that they performed exactly the same pace, the same tempo, the same effort. It was no different for them than if there was 20,000 people in the building. And the audience is a very much, in wrestling, a very key factor. It's an exchange of not just emotion, but energy. And they're just as much a part of the show. If you actually use that audience and interact with and react with that audience as they do.
Yeah, it's tricky, but let's say you were in the ring and there was nobody there. How would you change your performance, your wrestling, since you don't have those fans to play off of, or the fans that are, as you said, part of the match?
And to try to use the commentators to try to get that feedback of what direction I'm going, the pacing, the timing, and I'm going to try to interact more with the camera and the audience at home as much as I possibly can, and try to draw them in even more so than what I would typically.
Well, tough for sure. Tough for sure, but OVW, even with this situation, had some huge news that they shared just recently, and there are many more ways now that people will get the opportunity to see OVW. What are you able to tell us now, Al? What are you able to tell the audience now about how OVW will soon be more available to them?
Well, we signed a deal with U2 America, which gives us a national access on a national network. They're in 42 million homes between their both broadcast and cable network and their streaming network. Then we signed a deal with Binge TV, which will increase that reach to, I believe, about 57 million homes.
Wow.
We'll be on Binge TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and we'll have our own Roku channel as well. So that increases that reach to 57 million homes.
Wow, that is huge news.
That's a lot of eyeballs on OVW.
It's a lot of eyeballs. It's to get out what we've been doing for the last year and a half down here in Louisville, rebuilding OVW, rebuilding the training center. The goal is to continue to build the reputation of OVW that's always been there, and expand on that as not just a academic or training institution and development of talent, but also a place as a destination for talent. For new talent to be developed, and for talent that already has experience and has had a run to come and make a living and to reinvent themselves.
Awesome. Well, Al, we are. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, well, I'm just going to say that not just OVW, but let's talk about Collar and Elbow, the Pro Wrestling Report. All three of us bringing our mega powers together, and we'll be going forward because you'll be seeing Damien and myself on U2 America on OVW wrestling every week as well.
It's the PWR PrimeTime weekend update.
Yeah, I'm very excited that we will every week we'll have a segment for PWR as a part of OVW, and I think it's going to be a great relationship. And then also getting involved with Collar and Elbow, we're going to try to take it to the next level. We've really built that brand and really gotten the product out there, but we want to take it even another step or two up.
And we're actually doing that starting Friday. If you go to the collarandelbowbrand.com, free shipping, courtesy of Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, and the Pro Wrestling Report, starting on Friday.
Awesome. Well, as I said, we are live. Al, we do have some comments from socials. I know you've got about 2 minutes before you need to go out and do your wrestling things. But first, let's take a listen and look, rather, at what Ryan Cross said on Facebook. And I'll share that with you. He says, wow, Al, that'd be you, isn't complaining. He's going with the flow and staying positive. This is why he is a professional in every aspect of the word. So,
well, thank you, Ryan.
Not everyone agrees with you, though. In fact, Daniel S. Rivera on Facebook said he disagrees with Al. New Day and the Street Profits from WWE always play to the crowd.
Well, that's great. I'm not, not making a generalized statement. I just know that the vast majority of performers today, and it's a matter of them not being taught when they're first being brought in, and two, so much of their early part of their career is spent in an empty building just simply doing drills and focusing on selling what they do. In professional wrestling, I can't emphasize this enough, we never should sell what we do. We always sell who we are and why we do it. And people are going to disagree with that, I'm sure. I'm going to stir up a hornet's nest if that's because they don't understand what I mean. Let me explain this really quickly, okay?
Yes.
Baseball, football, and basketball have enormous audiences for one reason. And the biggest reason is that we've all played them as children or at any point in our lives, just in our backyard, in our driveway. We've played those sports. And so we relate to what's physically happening on the screen when we watch it. Hockey has a bigger fan base in Canada than it does in the United States because more people have played hockey in Canada. Soccer is bigger all over the rest of this planet than it is in the United States. More children, more generations of people have played soccer. That's why soccer is becoming more prevalent in the United States now, because we now have more people that have grown up playing soccer in the United States.
Yeah.
In wrestling, unless you've actually been in a ring physically, you've never hit the ropes, you don't know what that feels like, you've never taken a bump, you don't know how much that impact hurts every single time. So they will never believe what's physically happening, but they will believe in who you are and why you're doing it. And that's the heart of the psychology of wrestling, is to sell who you are and the fact that you're out there doing it for only two preeminent reasons, which are one, to try to win, and two, trying not to lose, because you're supposed to be a prize fighter, not just a wrestler, but an actual competitor. And that sense of competition, without it, there's no consequence to what we do to each other physically in the ring. And if there's no consequence, there's no drama. And if there's no drama, there's no heat. Heat is not offense. Heat's a want, a need, a desire that you get the audience to invest in and want to see the outcome of that competitive situation.
Yeah.
So you're welcome. There's a lesson for you.
We can always count on our dear friend Al Snow for a lesson. Al, thank you very much for joining us. Best of luck to you with OVW. We're excited to be working with you on your broadcast.
I am too. I'm very excited to have you guys. I'm very excited to have you guys, the PWR team, and I think Collar and Elbow and PWR and OVW, we've got, once all the storm clears, it's just going to be, that's the one thing I think everybody needs to keep in mind. This will pass. This isn't the be-all, end-all. And once it does, people are going to be hungry. They're going to be crazy to do something, to see events, to attend things, and to gather together. And I think pro wrestling is set to have a really big boom on the other side of this.
100% agree. Thank you, Al Snow. We'll talk to you again here soon on PWR Primetime Live.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Well, David, we've got some breaking news.
Huge news.
Huge news. Just actually got a press release from WWE regarding WrestleMania. Associates, pay attention. Viewers, pay attention. This is huge, and I'll read it as it is literally coming off the presses. This is from WWE. WrestleMania, for the first time ever, will be held as a two-night event, streaming on Saturday, April 4th and Sunday, April 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern on the WWE Network and on pay-per-view. The two-night pop culture extravaganza will be hosted by three-time Super Bowl champion Rob Gronkowski. And tune in to SmackDown this Friday on Fox to see what Gronk has in store for WrestleMania. As previously announced, WrestleMania will be featured only in front of essential personnel, and it will be a closed set on that two-night event.
That's amazing. 2 nights of WrestleMania.
It's WrestleMania weekend.
Wait. How many hours each night?
They are not telling us that. I think they know that no one could sit there for 5 hours through WrestleMania with no fans in the arena. But 2 nights, huge breaking news, literally just coming off the wire from WWE. Gentlemen, this is massive. We speculated even earlier in this live broadcast that perhaps WrestleMania would occur later in the year. Would it happen at the Performance Center? Well, now WWE doubling nights of WrestleMania. You're all shaking your heads, and I don't know if it's disbelief or disappointment, but let's hear your thoughts. WrestleMania, now a 2-night event in Orlando, Florida. Drew, what do you think?
I'm in disbelief. 2 nights. I guess they'll probably do 4 hours each night because it's normally, a 7-8 hour show. Gronkowski hosting. Good luck.
I hope not.
Is Brock allowed to travel? I don't know how this is going to happen. I really
Brock
don't.
Brock it on a Saudi. He can do anything.
I wish them the best, and I hope it's something we all remember. But it seems like a very uphill battle.
WrestleMania now 2 nights long. Breaking news here on PWR Primetime Live. Meathead, what do you think? How does this news strike you?
So in the other world that I have, I know that there's people that don't have the network. I ask, are they made to pay for both nights? If you buy night 1, you get night 2 free.
Good question.
That's what I wonder. Because there is still the linear pay-per-view model that's out there through your cable companies, through your closed circuit TV. Are they made to pay for both nights? And if they pay for the second night, do they get the first night free? That's what I wonder.
A lot of questions yet to be answered. What do you think? How do they do it, Dave? Do you get both nights for
You're going to have to. There's no way that you can't, because you're going to want to watch both nights. Because you got to figure out one night is going to be headlined by Goldberg and Roman Reigns. The next night's going to be headlined by Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre.
And that's what's incredibly interesting about this. Last year, it may have been the year before or last year, I think it was, the idea was floated about WrestleMania being a full weekend event, Saturday and Sunday, doing it over 2 nights.
Well,
and splitting the card.
And to be fair, Drew Baez hinted at this before, and I said he was nuts to even consider it. And look what happened. Drew Baez nuts.
That's why he's on the show. We knew he knew a little something.
Something.
Made him an associate.
Yeah.
Chernoff, what do you say?
Man, to me, the biggest concern here is if night 1 falls totally flat, who's watching night 2? Right? Like, you'd think if it's one night, hey, it may overall be a disaster, but you're here. It's WrestleMania. I'm just going to watch it. Maybe I'll tune out, tune back in. But if you invest, let's say 3 hours, right, or even 2 hours to night 1 of WrestleMania, And at the end of it, you're just like, this is horrible. I can't watch another match with, there's no crowd reaction. There's, I worry that whoever's being pushed on tonight 2 is really kind of in a really bad spot. Nobody's going to watch it. To me, I still think, I stand by what I said before. I think, like you mentioned, Damian, they're doubling down. I don't think that's a good idea. I think they should have just moved this, like the rumor going around, whether it was Madison Square Garden or coming back somewhere else. I don't think they should be doing it at the Performance Center.
You know what I honestly believe? I think that they had serious negotiations with the people in Orlando and said, hey, listen, we'll split it up in 2 nights, but we're going to need at least 100 people in the audience. Because otherwise you're going to have at least 125 people just in the back for one night.
So, and that's an interesting point, though. If they had even a small audience, like how we thought things were originally going to go with AEW tonight, we thought there was just going to be a very small, limited audience. If they had that, then I think you could have a lot of energy in that small room. But having no one, this is just, I think, a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, and here's the other problem. You don't know who the babyface or the heel is half the time. So for someone that's watching for the first time, they may cheer for Brock Lesnar instead of Drew McIntyre. They may cheer for Shayna Baszler instead of Becky Lynch. So they definitely need some type of sound in the PC.
Can they pipe in? I don't. Somebody said earlier today. I don't know who it was. Was Jerry Lawler said that they could have their live studio audience via technical inputs.
And that would be so lame. That would be terrible.
I do have a question for you guys. What do you think the chances are that there is going to be a match where someone is in a rest hold and starts stomping their foot to kind of get the audience to it?
Absolutely.
Well, I saw that on SmackDown Friday. That's what they were playing to the audience that wasn't there. Yeah. Austin was great this past Monday, by the way, with what he did. But that stuff, you only have so much of that you can use, right?
Yeah, I think this puts to bed the whole even rumor of this going elsewhere, right? We could end it right there. They're guns blazing at the Performance Center.
Well, and here's the thing. I think that they can't anymore leave. They have to do it at the PC because then there's, of course, rumor innuendo of insurance fraud. Like if it was WWE's plan was just to, pacify the insurance company. Okay, we'll go to Orlando, but we're really gonna skip town and go to MSG. And then it's out there.
If Orlando cancels on them, though, if the mayor comes in and says you can't have your event here, then they're out.
Well, right, but just the fact that it's even out there, knowing, and listen, Vince is a very smart individual. He's surrounded by brilliant geniuses. Yeah, this wasn't going to end well no matter what.
Well, look, here's the question I want to ask right now. Now that we know this is the plan, it's a 2-night event, and I want to engage the audience as well, #PWR Live. Should it even happen? Should they go forward with WrestleMania on the current 2-night plan, or should it be delayed? Josh?
I think not to beat a dead horse here, but I think it should be delayed. I do agree, though, at this point, they may have backed themselves into a corner and they can't delay it, or it is, as Dave was saying before, it's insurance fraud. But if it's canceled, I think that would be a blessing in disguise if the city came in and said, I'm sorry, the number of people in your locker room are more than you're allowed to have in one place. So I think that would be a blessing in disguise. To me, this is just this bullheaded idea of we're just going to keep going forward. I love the idea of them presenting content. That's you guys bringing this show back when you brought the show back is fantastic because you're providing content to wrestling fans. I agree with that. And I think it would have been great for them to say, hey, you know what, we're going to do something this weekend. Maybe even instead of canceling out the Hall of Fame, keep the Hall of Fame, because I think fans have been ruining the Hall of Fame for years. So that would have been beneficial. But no, I think that they absolutely should have postponed this.
Meathead.
I want to watch it because it's going to be a car crash. I mean, over the last week, we've been watching marble races, on the internet, to see which marble won. So we, again, Damien and everybody else here, the gentlemen that have, the associates, as we're being called, we're making content because we have to make content because we need something on the air. So, what? Run the show. Let's see what we got. I don't know how long they can continue to do the empty arena, though, because that special effect, Damien, I've heard this for 22 years. Special effects only special when you don't do it all the time.
Very true. Drew Bay, what do you say?
Yeah, I think they're going to do the 2 nights. I would love to see them move it, but I think they backed themselves into a corner here. I think including Gronkowski tells you everything you need to know. I think they probably wanted to do this all in one night, and Orlando said you can't have 50 people backstage at this performance center. It's a health hazard. So what they'll do is they'll keep 25 on Saturday, 25 on Sunday. However many people, they'll split it. They'll have them on 8 different buses, like Dave had said to myself before. And I think that's what they do. I cannot see them going anywhere else now unless Orlando shuts them down. They have 100% backed themselves into a corner.
I haven't said this in a while, but here's the thing. Okay?
Yeah.
If you delay WrestleMania, you still have to fill 3 nights a week of content until then. So then you're going to have 3 nights going forward of empty Performance Center shows. Because you can't keep throwing up old matches of the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber and little box vignettes. You're gonna lose your fan base because they're not gonna tune in. I don't know what the numbers were for Raw, but as soon as the Chamber went on or the Rumble match went on, I was ready to change the channel. I've already seen that. I didn't want to watch it again with commercials.
Yeah.
I have an idea.
Go ahead, Josh. This is not a Democratic presidential debate. You don't have to raise your hand.
I know. Is it my time? Yeah, so my thought on that is, and this is just like off the top of my head, it wouldn't have been the end of the world if they took this opportunity to just give everyone a break. To say, hey, we're just going to, like every other sport out there, they stopped. And you have all of these DVDs and network specials on the network. I'm talking DVDs from years ago, and then all these hidden gems and all these things. There is enough that they could look at this and say, you know what, we're going to show you a little bit. And guess what? It's a plug for the network as well, because you're getting this now because of the coronavirus. But then when you're done at it, you can always have, for more like this, subscribe to the WWE Network. And I think they could have just said, hey, you know what? We're going to rest our talent. We're going to take a little break here. And WrestleMania will be whenever we come back, we're going to build to WrestleMania. And I think with a little creativity, they could have drawn these storylines out, because you just bring in the reality of this, the reality that these matches were canceled or were postponed, and then have the talent deal with that, have engaging conversations. You have Edge, right? He wants his revenge on Randy Orton. Well, why can't there be part of that, the fact that Edge has been waiting now for months, that he should have had that opportunity, and that Orton got lucky because of what happened? I think there are ways that they could have worked around that they could have created more entertaining shows they could have filled their shows on USA and on Fox. But that's just my thing. Back to you guys.
Don't get hot. I mean, it's a hell of an idea.
I love your Hall of Fame idea.
So you're saying that off season?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I love the Hall of Fame idea. I think that works perfectly. Vince will never have an off season. I don't know him personally, but I can tell you by all the campaigns he's ever run and ran there is no off season in WWE, WWF, AEW. Just never going to happen.
But this is an opportunity to have that off season without Vince McMahon ever having to say, "I gave an off season." Right?
Well, I like the idea of an off season. I just can't see them doing it because they're so gung ho on being the only thing that is on TV right now.
Well, and to be fair, let's face it, they are in an off season right now. There's no live events.
Yeah.
Raw and SmackDown and NXT are very limited as far as in-ring performers. It seems like the only ones they're using, with the exception of Edge and Austin, are people that live within 90 miles of the PC.
Yeah, so how are they going to get away with WrestleMania then? Because NXT has no live action tonight. What clearance did they get to have WrestleMania?
They're not going to have NXT.
I know, that's what I'm... Yeah.
Thank you for agreeing.
But what they're doing with NXT, why couldn't they be doing this? I understand over time it could get tiresome, but they have such an enormous roster. Why couldn't they, God forbid you were to take any of the talent and build them all up so you felt that everyone there was a superstar? You had Al Snow on earlier talking about how this was a blessing in disguise for OVW, because they have the opportunity now to introduce the audience to some of their talent. Well, guess what? WWE can do the same thing. You have a lot of people who have nothing else to watch. And instead of showing them, hey, here we are in an empty performance center where people are going to look at this and go, like, nothing against the women, because that was a a horrible situation for them to be put in, especially to be the first match doing it. But if you're just a casual fan or somebody who's like, I haven't watched wrestling in years, let's tune in and see what the WWE is doing these days. You're probably not going to tune in ever again after seeing that, just because of the nature of what it was. So I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't just build the characters in this time.
We are live, ladies and gentlemen, on Fight TV, all across social media. This is the Pro Wrestling Report, PrimeTime Live. Damian Nelson, David Hero, the man they call Meathead, Drew Bay, Josh Chernoff. Breaking news to reset for all of you here. WrestleMania, just announced a few minutes ago, is now a 2-night event. It will occur over 2 nights, Saturday, April 4th and Sunday, April 5th. First time ever for WrestleMania. Those shows to occur at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando. We've been discussing whether or not the show should actually go on and whether or not this was the right decision. And there is no answer. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. WWE's not right, WWE's not wrong. By April 5th, things will have changed again in our current situation.
Oh, by tomorrow.
Exactly, if not by tonight. So they're trying. They're doing what they can, but much like AEW is doing what it can tonight in just a few minutes live on TNT.
Here's what they keep doing. They keep their brand in the news every day by something new.
Yes.
Isn't that ultimately, at the end of the day, what's important?
Yeah, but look at everything that's going on. In any other year, had WrestleMania been postponed or moved or whatever, it would be big news.
But right now, there's nothing else to talk about in the news besides the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So now you can say, hey, WrestleMania's back on again.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for your views on that situation. We are going to get the engagement from the audience as well. Hashtag PWR Live.
So
I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. WrestleMania now a 2-night event instead of 1, and in Orlando. But before we get to the PWR Lounge, tonight, in just a few minutes actually, on TNT, it's AEW All Elite Wrestling Dynamite. And they have told us that tonight it's going to be a big night because the Exalted One will be revealed.
Yeah, well, I don't think it'll be Matt Hardy. I mean, he has.
Why'd you jump up immediately to Matt Hardy?
Because that's what everyone thinks. I would love her to be Matt Hardy, but I want Matt Hardy to come to Blizzard Brawl first.
How is AEW going to do what WWE didn't do at the Performance Center for SmackDown and Raw? Because what has been clear over the last several months is that AEW is a different product. And some would say it's a better product. Some would say WWE's a better product. How do they keep themselves different
AEW
right
is
now
very
in their
dependent
situation?
on their fan base.
Yeah?
They crave and they thrive off of their audience. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know what they're doing unless, gentlemen, you guys have heard anything. Do we have any intel on what's happening inside the walls of AEW tonight?
Nope.
Not all at once. Take your time, guys.
And perhaps that's a good thing. We didn't know what WWE was going to do. We saw a distinct change from Friday to Monday. 3 matches to 1.
Yes.
And a lot of promos. You're right. AEW is much more. The fans are much more active during the show than they are for WWE programming. So maybe it poses a different challenge for them. But what would you do, David Hero, if you were having to make the decision of not just tonight in a few minutes live on TNT, but for the foreseeable future with your weekly broadcast?
Well, if I'm AEW, I don't do anything crazy tonight simply because I have no competition.
NXT is on tonight, or
But
they're
there's
not.
no matches. No live matches.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder, you got to figure that AEW should at least pick up an extra 25% of the ratings share tonight. Wouldn't you agree?
Who should?
AEW. They should be close to a
Raw
million.
and SmackDown were both up in the ratings.
They should
last
be
week.
close to 1 million.
They're close to 1 million every week.
They're 700 and some thousand.
No, they're 900 something thousand.
Stop lying.
Next,
Stop
NXT
lying.
is 700 and something thousand.
Okay.
There you go. I see what you're doing. So in this iteration of the Pro Wrestling Report, it won't be Finn Balor, it won't be Charlotte, it won't be Cody Rhodes that this one craps all over. It's going to be AEW.
No.
I'm shocked.
Stop. That's not true.
That's what you just did.
That's not true. No, I just said that I would like to see the AEW ratings jump by 25%.
I think a lot of broadcasts are going to be in that situation just because so many people are home now. Hey, I drove from Chicago area to Milwaukee area today, and there's a distinct difference, folks. The world has changed.
Well, Milwaukee is north.
What did I say wrong?
But it's changed. It's different.
I don't understand what you're saying. But the world has changed. The wrestling world has changed, and we're here to hopefully help guide you through it a little bit live on Fight. But no one can really predict what will happen, and it's really, really hard to decide what should happen. And that's what we heard from Al Snow earlier, too, here on this program.
There's so many scenarios, there's so many ways it can go, because we don't know what's going to happen next week or the week after. And it's live TV.
Yeah.
And, you're building stories towards something. Well, eventually, these stories have got to be paid off. And look at WrestleMania, that's a problem right there. When is that going to get paid off?
I agree with the off-season argument. I think this is a great opportunity to say, hey, you know what? And there's so many reasons they can't. You're right, Dave. TV deals, obligations, whatever.
But okay, hold on.
Just say we're taking 2 months off.
But the NFL and Major League Baseball and the National Hockey League, they don't take the off-season off before their biggest game.
No, you're right, but no one can plan this.
No, exactly.
So I think that given the situation currently, pause. Come back hot, not into WrestleMania per se, do a couple of Raws or SmackDowns or whatever it is. Take a minute to figure out what your long-term plan is, because right now, a lot of businesses, including WWE, are having to decide on the fly, having to decide not for tomorrow, but really for today.
Yes.
Because tomorrow is going to change. And I know that you, Drew, had a situation with your WrestleMania tickets. And I think it's an intriguing story to talk about what you had to go through once the event was canceled in Tampa.
Yeah, well, we obtained tickets directly from WWE in the venue. So we flew down there, got tickets, down there being Tampa, during the pre-party, got tickets, and we have to get all those tickets back that we handed to customers and clients in order to get an exchange. So we're waiting on about over $50,000 worth of tickets. So it's a crazy time. It's something that is unprecedented. Everyone's said the word a million times or the phrase uncharted waters, but to call clients or customers and say, hey, I need you to mail back those tickets, it's just, this quantity we've never had to do. And once I get the tickets back, I got to fly to Tampa to get my money back. So
amazing. And we talked about the shenanigans party and how we had to cancel that. And you've heard about the sagas, which luckily has been resolved very tremendously for WrestleCon. But, some venues, including the venue we were going to have shenanigans at, is holding on to deposits. They've got to look out for themselves, but they've also, we all signed contracts, right? We signed a contract with the venue. I'm sure you signed contracts for these tickets. And it gets to a point where there is that natural disaster. And this is not an earthquake, a tornado, or a hurricane, whatever it may be. This is worse. And I think any business that is not doing good business is going to be out of business. And they deserve to be out of business if they're not doing good business. So it's a tricky situation for everybody. We are 7 minutes out from AEW Dynamite on TNT. Gentlemen, let's go around the horn and see what you are looking forward to seeing or what you expect to see. Of course, the endorsed and tremendous superstar Cody Rhodes. But beyond that, tonight on AEW Dynamite, we'll start with you, Meathead.
Orange Cassidy. I want to see what he does when he walks in tonight. I want to see if he's as casual as he normally is. Will he, because there's nobody there, will he take his hands out of his pocket? Maybe it's a thing where he doesn't want to touch anybody. You never know.
Orange Cassidy knew before we knew. He was social distancing before it was a thing, right?
He's on to something.
Josh, AEW Dynamite.
I am looking forward to finding out who the Exalted One is. I'm hoping that it's
Who do you think it is?
I think it's Luke Harper, Brody Lee. Right? Isn't that what he's going by now?
Yeah.
Or what he
I
went by
can see
before?
that.
I don't think it's going to be Matt Hardy. It's definitely not going to be Al Snow. We found out he's at home.
How did you find that out?
That was my guess because I watched this show. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
But No, one of the thoughts that I had when I'm curious, you had talked about before what AEW was going to do differently than WWE. You have to remember all of this, everything with AEW kind of came from being the elite. So you're talking about a group of people that got their popularity and built everything upon these little videos that had no fan interaction whatsoever. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Good point.
And in fact, would recommend that maybe they gear these next few episodes more towards a being the elite type style, or a lot of these backstage vignettes and the way that they do them differently than WWE. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. And then in general, just seeing what they do. I'm also really hoping, and I don't know how you feel about this, that they push the blood and guts until there's an audience again. I think to debut something like that, to not have to me, I don't think that that's really a good idea. That's not WrestleMania, that's something that they can hold off and delay. Yeah. I think everyone who ends up being in attendance, and they should push it till whenever they're back in Jersey, the people who are anticipating being there for it. So this is my thought, but yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
And Drew, your perspective, AEW tonight.
I'm looking forward to the whole presentation, and then I want to see how people react via social media, the people who cover it. I want to see that because it's been funny how much WWE has caught so much slack from both fans and commentators and all, and the media. I want to see what AEW does. I think it's a great point to do that whole being the elite thing. And they also, I don't think Matt Hardy's going to be the exalted one, but I do think they could run a show from his compound if he is going to be
been done
in AEW. Next week, they could have the next 2 weeks there. And I agree, that blood and guts should never be shown without a crowd.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. It is time now to go to the PWR Lounge, and let's get social with a few of your comments that take us home, if you will, as we get ready to watch AEW Dynamite on TNT. Remember, this is PWR PrimeTime Live. We're live on Fight TV. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. What time is that on the West Coast, David?
Exactly. I think it's 4. I'm doing the math. Carry the 4 plus it's 4.
Our associates will be joining us each and every day, and there are more associates. We're bringing additional team members on board to bring you their perspective on professional wrestling, and we endeavor to have a guest every time we can, including this Friday on our next show. Before we go into the lounge, David, let's do the big reveal. Who is joining us this Friday on PrimeTime Live?
Well, she just got her brand new... Yeah, she just got her brand new food truck. It's the only
Oh, yes! One of my favorite people on this entire planet.
She absolutely is. Yes.
ODB joins us Friday on PrimeTime Live. Al Snow joined us earlier tonight. Thank you, Al. And now, let's get to your comments, folks. And remember, it doesn't stop at the end of this show. These shows are preserved on all the channels by which they're airing, including Fight. And you can join in and continue to comment. We engage with those comments even after the broadcast is over. So first, looking for Bigfoot says, I would do WrestleMania, then do the off-season. That's interesting.
Well, that makes more sense. It does.
Yeah.
That way you can get over the business you got to get over, and then you can take your break.
Richard Corona says, if you love wrestling, you'll love AEW.
Reservations anywhere.
NXT wrestling is wrestling. Would love for the head-to-head tonight. Hashtag PWR Live. And my mind over your matter. My offseason isn't going to fly with Vince McMahon. He overworks his wrestlers like slaves.
How do people know that? Here's the thing. There's that word again, that phrase again. I know people that work for Vince McMahon, and I know that they get time off whenever they need it. So to say that they work them like slaves, I disagree. You're wrong.
Shamel Jackson, Vince McMahon had the biggest gathering in the 2000s right after September 11th. I'm sure he's willing to walk that line as far as possible for this. Some may hate him, but he's the man. And that's an interesting point that Shamel brings up, because it was the very first large-scale public assembly event after 9/11 was the live SmackDown from Houston, which aired on Thursday, I believe it was that week, instead of its normal Tuesday night. So, it's Rainier, 0989. It would be risky, as you guys have said, but I'm intrigued by this. A lot of fans have wanted it to be 2 nights because of the long cards and the number of hours that they have in WrestleMania. Folks, that's all the comments we have time for today. We're going to continue to engage with you during AEW and AEW Dynamite and NXT, which both start in just a matter of seconds. So we will say thank you for joining us here live on Fight. For the man they call Meathead, Drew Bay, Josh Chernoff, and this is Damian Nelson saying farewell, everyone. We'll see you Friday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern with ODB right here on Fight TV.